People forget that grunts weren't always the joke. Back in 2001, the very first enemy you fought in Halo Combat Evolved wasn't a bullet sponge. It wasn't some scripted tutorial dummy standing there waiting to die. It was a small, panicking alien that actually made decisions. It took cover when you aimed at it. It ran when its leaders died. And sometimes, when everything else had failed and it had nowhere left to go, it primed 2 plasma grenades, screamed, and sprinted straight at you. And that enemy became a punchline. Today, grunts basically exist to roast you with one-liners between deaths. And the strange part? Nobody really noticed the transformation while it was happening. So this is a story of how Halo's most believable enemy became its mascot, and what that change says about 20 years of Halo. So here's what most people never realize about Combat Evolved. The grunts weren't scripted to be cowards, they were simulated. Bungie built the whole covenant around a leadership system. Every squad of grunts followed an elite. Kill the grunts first, and the elite just pushes forward anyway. But kill the elite first, every grunt in that squad breaks. And that is some canned animation as an actual change in the AI. They scatter, they fire blindly over their shoulders, they trip over each other trying to get away. And the brilliance of it all was that this made them a puzzle, not filler. The grunts were your reward for playing well. Take out the leader and the whole encounter just collapsed in front of you. But play badly, those same cowardly little grunts would flank you, stick you with a plasma grenade, catch you reloading, and then there was the berserk state. A cornered grunt with nothing left to lose would grab 2 plasma grenades, hold them over its head, and charge. And it was equal parts hilarious and terrifying, because it wasn't a joke. It could actually kill you. On Legendary, it did, and all the time. Critics back then called Halo's AI the best in gaming, not because it was smart, because it was believable. The grunts sold the fantasy that the Covenant was an army of creatures, not a spawn table. And the behaviors went way deeper than just combat. Walk into an encounter slowly in Combat Evolved, and you catch grunts asleep at their posts. Actually asleep. You can sneak right past them, or take them out quietly, and thin the squad before the fight even started. And no tutorial ever told you this. No mission objective mentioned it. It was just there. A little piece of simulation that existed whether or not you ever noticed it. And think about how rare that still is. 20 plus years later, most shooters still don't let you catch the enemy sleeping. Bungie shipped it in 2001 on the original Xbox for an enemy that most players would only ever sprint past. That's the level of care we're talking about here, and that's exactly what made everything that came after feel like such a trade. So when did the punchline actually start? Halo 2, and 2 things happened. First, Bungie massively expanded the enemy dialogue. Grunts didn't just scream anymore, they talked, they begged, they cracked wise. "Run for your lives" became a catchphrase. The fear was still there, but now it had a voice, and that voice was funny. Second, and this is the exact moment I pointed to, Halo 2 introduced a skull called Grunt Birthday Party. Turn it on, and critical hits trigger explosions. By Halo 3, the effect was exclusive to grunts. Headshot one and it dies in a burst of confetti with children cheering. So think about what that skull actually is. It's an official developer built mode whose entire premise is killing this enemy is a celebration. No other enemy in Halo got that treatment. Nobody made a confetti skull for elites. And to be clear, none of this was a mistake. The comedy worked. ODST's grunts muttering about their terrible job assignments, that's some of the best incidental writing in the whole series. And Reach kept the balance too. Funny in the quiet moments, still dangerous in packs. But the direction was set. Every single game shifted the grunt a little further from a threat and a little closer to mascot. And Reach deserves a closer look here, because Reach is where the two identities of the grunt live side by side for the last time. In the campaign, grunts could still genuinely hurt you. On Legendary, a pack of them with plasma pistols was a real problem, and those old leadership dynamics still echoed underneath. But then over in Firefight, Bungie shipped a mode called Grunt Apocalypse. Every enemy, every wave, nothing but grunts. It was a shooting gallery, a celebration. The entire point of the mode was, here are hundreds of the funny little ones, go have fun. Same game, same enemy. One mode treats them as soldiers, the other treats them as confetti waiting to happen. And Reach didn't pick a side, and honestly, that balance is exactly why people remember its Grunt so fondly. It was the last time Halo had both. And here's the part of the story that nobody really talks about. Before Grunts became comedians, they became boring. When 343 Industries took over with Halo 4 and Halo 5, the Grunts didn't get funnier, they got quieter. Go ahead, try to quote a Grunt line from Halo 4. You can't. The dialogue was muted, the personality flattened, and the AI, the thing that made them special in the first place, it was nothing anyone wrote home about. And it turns out that mattered. Because when the personality disappeared, we all found out it was the only thing left. The fear was already long gone. Nobody had been generally threatened by a Grunt since 2004. So strip out the comedy too, and what are you left with? Just small enemy, shoots a slow projectile, dies. Halo 4 and Halo 5's Grunts are basically the control group for this whole experiment. They proved that transformation had already happened. The Grunt's identity wasn't cowardly soldiers anymore. It was the funny one. And a version without the funny was a version with nothing. And then Halo Infinite went all in. 343 clearly heard the feedback, because Infinite's Grunts talk constantly, and every single line is a bit. They roast you for using vehicles. They announce their own cowardice like it's a stand-up routine. There are Grunt propaganda officers broadcasting insults at you across the whole open world. And within a week of launch, Grunt's dialogue was going viral. The most shared Halo content of 2021 wasn't a multiplayer clip, it was enemy one-liners. Kotaku literally ran a piece titled, Halo Infinite's Grunts are funny AF. People love them. But listen to the other reaction, because this is the whole thesis of the video. Creators call Infinite Grunts bad stand-up comedians. Marvel movie quippings bolted onto a war story. And the complaint wasn't that the jokes were bad, it was that they never stopped. When every Grunt is doing a routine, the Banished, supposedly the most fearsome enemy Halo has ever faced, it felt like a comedy troupe with plasma pistols. And here's the thing, both the reactions are right. The lines are funny, and an enemy army that only exists to be laughed at has lost something. 20 years earlier, Bungie made you feel like you were fighting creatures that wanted to live. Infinite makes you feel like you're heckling an open mic. And there's one more layer to this, and it's a part that makes the whole transformation generally strange. Because in the lore, the Grunts, they're a conquered species. The Covenant subjugated their homeworld, drafted them as expendable labor, and shifted them off to the front lines of a war they never chose. They're the lowest caste in a rigid alien theocracy, cannon fodder by design in the actual story. And Combat Evolved never told you any of that. It didn't have to, because the behavior said it for them. Of course they run when the elite dies. The elite was the only thing making them fight. Of course they panic. They never wanted to be here in the first place. The cowardice wasn't comic relief, it was characterization. In the modern games, they kept the backstory and they inverted the delivery. So now the conscripted slave soldiers do tight 5-minute sets about their own oppression while you shoot them. And it's funny. It's also a little bleak if you actually stop and listen to what they're joking about. Does any of this actually matter? They're cannon fodder aliens in a shooter. Who cares if they're funny? Here's why I care. The original Grunt was a proof of a design philosophy that even your weakest enemy deserves well behavior. And a comedy Grunt is a proof of a different one. That personality can just be written on top in dialogue instead of built underneath in the systems. One approach makes the world believable, the other makes it quotable. And Halo didn't choose a second path because it's lazy, it chose it because it works. The clips go viral, people love the lines. Honestly, I love half of them too. But the scariest thing in Halo Combat Evolved was never the flood. It was watching a Grunt look at his dead squad leader, decide that the fight was over, and run. Because for 1 second, the game actually convinced you that the thing was alive. They don't run anymore. They just wait for you to get close enough to hear the punchline.